Capping off a week-long visit to the U.S. in Philadelphia, the 78-year-old Pope Francis offered Mass on Saturday morning and visited Independence Mall before arriving with great fanfare at Benjamin Franklin Parkway, joining thousands gathered for the Festival of Families. The pontiff greeted Aretha Franklin and Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. backstage before the show, and the Queen of Soul, she actually gave the Pope a box set of her father, Reverend C.L. Franklin's sermons. Then, of course, the Queen took the stage. Pope Francis later met with Catholic bishops as well as 5 survivors of sexual abuse on Sunday morning. He also visited a Philadelphia prison, offering blessings and the message that we are all indeed worthy of redemption and forgiveness. The Pope celebrated one final Mass at a gathering with hundreds of thousands of people. He stressed the importance of teaching children religious tolerance at a young age and preserving the sanctity of family. I want to talk about this with my panel, GOP strategist Paris Denard and Law and Victoria Burke, managing editor of Politic365.com. Folks, here's what's interesting. So, folks on social media acted a plumb fool about the Queen of Soul. It was amazing. All these folks were trashing her, mad, saying she didn't acknowledge the Pope, saying that they didn't understand a word that she said. You know, I tweeted several saying, well, clearly y'all ain't never been to a black church. Right.
I mean, the Aretha Franklin, she's Kojic, so that's what we do. I mean, we go, we praise them no matter where we are, and I think it was a wonderful example of gospel music, which was a trend that you saw throughout the Pope's visit. On the White House, they were singing Richard Smallwood. At the Mass, they were singing gospel music all throughout. So I think it was a fitting tribute to the uniqueness of American black gospel music being played and sung for this Pope.
Also, having her there meant that we really closed the circle on all types of music for the Pope, whether he was in D.C. or Philly or New York. We heard like everything, from traditional church music to dirges to, I mean, we heard everything, to soul music. So well, the Pope seemed to enjoy it.
Right. First of all, I mean, you saw several of his cards. They were kind of like reading by Hudson Bennett. You know, but it was interesting. Again, reactions are always, I think, they always surprise me, because what you see, that was a perfect example of different cultural influences.
Right.
In terms of, I mean, look, I was born and raised Catholic, and I can tell you that was a difference for us being in a black Catholic church,
right,
and then going to other Catholic churches. Right. They had no idea what we were doing. We were like, look, I'm sorry, y'all. We might be Catholic, but we black. I'm sorry. So y'all can keep the string guitar. Right. We're going to do this a little different.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, funny thing, my family, one side, my father's side of the family is Episcopalian, my mother's side of the family is Baptist, and of course I went to Catholic school, and you know, the differences in music.
Oh, you were culture.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was like the differences in music and activity in the church. Obviously, to me, the Baptist ceremony is a lot more fun, because a lot more singing and more action, and you know, and see, it depends, I guess, on who, you know, what you're raised with. But quite frankly, I mean, because the Pope went to 3 cities, I think they did a really good job of covering like every possible, you know, type of ceremony and religious celebration that you could have. You know, it was great.
It was a good thing, I think, for the world to see our music and to see our culture on the stage for the Pope and for everyone the millions that turned in to watch this. This was gospel music at its best, and I loved it.
Now, Pope Francis, of course, he had an impact on a lot of different people. One of those folks is House Speaker John Boehner. After nearly 5 years as Speaker, Boehner announced on Friday that he is resigning from not just Congress, not just his Speaker's position, but also from Congress.
It's become clear to me that this prolonged leadership turmoil would do irreparable harm to the institution. So this morning I informed my colleagues that I would resign from the speakership and resign from Congress at the end of October. But last night I started to think about this, and this morning I woke up and I said my prayers, as I always do, and I decided, you know, today's the day I'm going to do this. As simple as that.
He's like, I'm out. He's had a rocky tenure as Speaker, especially when his Republican colleagues made promises they knew they couldn't keep. During an interview on Face the Nation on Sunday on CBS, Speaker Boehner talked about these, quote, false prophets in Congress.
The Bible says, beware of false prophets. And there are people out there, you know, spreading noise about how much can get done. I mean, this whole idea that we're going to shut down the government to get rid of Obamacare in 2013, this plan never had a chance.
Let's go back to our panel. Here's what I find to be interesting. Here is Speaker Boehner basically blasting the likes of Senator Ted Cruz,
right.
Blasting many fellow Republicans.
Right.
And what he's saying is, y'all have wasted a whole bunch of time.
Exactly right, which is exactly what they've done, because the problem with this speaker has always been the fact that about 50 members of the Republican House hate this president. John Boehner doesn't hate the president enough, so he had to go. That's what the problem with John Boehner is. Now, you have 247 Republicans in the House right now. You've got about 40 or 50 who campaigned and came into office on hating Barack Obama. So I suspect that Kevin McCarthy, who is likely to be the new speaker, will have the same problem. But the problem with Boehner was that he couldn't have enough Obamacare repeals. He couldn't have enough votes.
Even though they
that
were like
totally
50
political.
or so.
Right, it's never enough. It's never enough, because disliking this president is the new type of way we measure conservatives in the House for some of these people, and that's the problem.
But also the other problem is this here, and this is a fundamental problem. First of all, I think a lot of people don't understand constitutionally the Speaker of the House. First of all, the Speaker of the House does not have to come from Congress.
True.
In fact, anybody in America
Right.
can qualify to be Speaker of the House.
Right.
The problem is they also would not move on anything unless there were 218 votes in the caucus.
Well, that was
as opposed to saying, wait a minute, there were many bills that could have easily been passed, but it would have required Democratic votes, and that was somehow, oh my God, if we do that, we must have lost our minds.
that John Boehner had to do that because he was going to catch hell if he had used Democratic votes to win certain measures. That's what that was.
What this shows is the hyperpartisanship of the Congress right now. But internally, within the Republican Party, you see the great disdain that you have for a person who wants to not be theatrical, someone who wants to be more practical, and I think
compromise.
And compromise. and
because for many of these Republicans, compromise is a bad word.
it is some
Compromise
ran
with Barack
against that.
Obama.
President
Because
Barack Obama.
if this was another person sitting in the White House, I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
Well, I think it's President Obama and the agenda that he was putting forth.
Wasn't the
for
agenda.
them.
They met the night of the inauguration on January 20th, 2009
That's
to
true.
decide to obstruct this president. This is before he did anything. That's why that nonsense Eric Cantor article in the New York Times is a bunch of bull, because he claims they tried to obstruct the president after he started passing things, when actually the decision was made before he got into office.
But I think it's because they knew what was coming. President Obama, then Senator Obama was very clear what the agenda he was going to lay out, and the agenda that he was going to carry out was going to be very liberal and very progressive. And so coming into it, I think they knew that this was going to be the type of president that was going to be totally antithetical to anything that they stood for. And so I think when you look at this House Congress, I mean the Republican Congress, you have a situation where we have got to come together and figure out, is Kevin McCarthy going to be the solution? And if he's not, who's going to be the person to step up?
That's the other
Who's
joke
gonna be the
here.
person to step up?
Kevin McCarthy is effectively John Boehner. I mean, there's
Well,
not that much different from
that's
him.
true.
You know, these people, the Tea Party caucus in the House, they like to run their mouth. They do absolutely nothing, as Tom Cole said
You said that yesterday
on Fox News. And I'm just telling you that they like to talk big. But notice, none of them want to run. Dan Webster down in Florida at least has the guts to
Right.
run for Speaker.
Right.
But the bottom line with these people, as Tom Cole said yesterday, they don't do anything. Ted Cruz runs his mouth. He uses the institution as a PR platform, basically. They're not interested in governance. They're not interested in doing anything except hating on the president and making YouTube videos in hearings. That's basically all they do.
And the problem is America gets screwed.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, at the end of the day,
Exactly right.
and look, you have a handful of Tea Party folks who simply want their way. But here's the reality: they can't have it.
Right.
There's not enough of them, and you have too many other Republicans in Congress who are scared to call the Tea Party out. Call out those members of Congress
close.
because they are afraid of losing their job. And you have people who say, look, how do you have individuals who say, wait a minute, you're not conservative enough? I mean,
Right.
Speaker Boehner said, really?
I know.
Really? I
Boehner's
can't
not
be,
conservative.
I'm not conservative?
Like the idea that John Boehner is not conservative is preposterous. He is conservative. And I think that what you have is an extreme right, the extreme conservatives, the Freedom Caucus, the 45 or so members who want a more theatrical, they want to just bring things to the floor just for the sake of bringing something to the floor.
Which
and
is
have
just
they want to
stupid.
fight.
Messaging.
They say we want to
Messaging.
fight. We want to fight to appeal to the base
But
and to raise dollars.
They don't have the votes. And here's the other thing they don't have. They don't have Mitch McConnell. See, the other thing in this
He's
is that when they pass their ridiculous stuff in the House, it doesn't move in the Senate because McConnell does not agree with what they're doing. So they don't have the votes. That's how our democracy works.
They don't have the votes, and they
I mean,
also don't have a knowledge of how things work in Washington. You've got to compromise, and you've got to work together and reach across the aisle.
And when you send people here from Tea Party land who have no government experience, and they're radio talk show hosts and all these other people who are showing up in Congress now who are not interested in governance, that's a huge problem as well.
I got to ask you this question here. Elizabeth Warren was speaking in Boston and gave a strong speech dealing with the issue targeting Black Lives Matter. And obviously she's not running for president. Do you believe, and actually this is going to come up later in the show when we show the hip-hop panel that we shot at Congressional Black Caucus, I moderated. And I posed this question to them, and I'll pose the question to you. I believe that the Black Lives Matter movement, what they should do is they should actually call for two forums, one for Democratic candidates, one for Republican candidates that are specifically on Black Lives Matter, not just on police issues, but a wide variety of issues, and then see who chooses not to show up. What do you think? And I say do it after South Carolina, but before Super Tuesday, when you're going to have the maximum impact of black voters. What do y'all think?
I don't know who would show up, first of all, on both, but I think it'll be very telling. It'll be very telling to those candidates who take this seriously and who may not agree with the slogan or the hashtag, but understand the importance behind it. Those who get it, and those who have staff that say this is something you should do if you want to reach and have these inroads and tap into how America feels, will show up. Those that won't, they're not going to be there.
Well, I think we know who would not show up. Most of the Republicans would not show up.
Well, I think
we have
there's
Jeb
some.
Bush. I think maybe Marco Rubio might show up.
Well, I don't know.
Jeb Bush.
I don't know if there's no free stuff there.
I know, Jeb Bush and his free stuff. I mean, that's how they market to black voters, right? It's the welfare queen thing.
But also, I think, though, that what this forum would also do, it would also raise the Black Lives Matter movement to a different level. Because if you go back to 2012, when you had the Tea Party that sponsored
Absolutely.
debates,
Absolutely.
Black Lives Matter movement should do it as well. And I think, and look, I'll put it out there. If you're the Black Lives Matter movement and you say you come to TV One, or you say a collection of black networks, or you say Radio One, and say, all right, we're going to put on this national forum. And let's do it at HBCU. Let's do it at Florida A&M University. Let's do it at Morehouse, Georgia, Super Tuesday State as well.
Right.
Let's do it at Jackson State. There are ways to do it. I think what it would do is, especially when you have Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley and others who are saying that the Democratic Party has rigged these debates, it would force every Democratic candidate to have to show up and speak to our issues. And I know the CBC is having a debate with the Democrats. It's going to be aired on NBC. No, I'm talking about I'm talking about a whole different kind of discussion.
I don't think Black Lives Matter is looking for that type of redemption on this type of level. You know how they're very suspicious about the voting.
Here's the deal. I don't mean redemption.
Think that they're not looking for that type of approval.
But here's the deal. No. This is not approval.
Well, you know what I mean. They're not looking for.
No. But this is not approval. What it is it puts your issues front and center, and you're not hoping it comes up at the other debates.
I think their issues are front and center. I think the fact that they have. They have amplified these issues such that Hillary Clinton and the company have addressed them
But I'm talking
in
about,
a way that would have never happened.
I'm talking about if you had all the candidates on stage, it would raise the stakes in a different way. Go.
It's not on a full hour on a debate stage. These issues be addressed. It's something that needs to be done.
All right, hold tight 1 second, folks. When we come back, we got our headlines. And Prairie View A&M University, Prairie View, Texas, they've actually named Sandra Bland Parkway. We'll explain when we come back. Also, can the hip-hop community harness its voting power to help shape the political future of America? We'll show you our discussion from Congressional Black Caucus. Plus, celebrity fitness trainer Deanna Jefferson is here to show you how to get through fall semester without gaining the freshman 15 pounds. Plus, Layla Hathaway right here on News One Now and TV One. It is 16 after the hour. Back in a moment.